Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. My name is Cody. We are back for another week, and thankfully, something happened that we can talk about. And it's quite interesting. There was a pretty cool calling with some unique decks that did well and a completely different metagame. So maybe there is still some magic left in this old hat of a metagame. But before we get to that, as you can see, we have Connor on the podcast. That was basically everyone said Connor has to be on because you went undefeated at Worlds in CC, which is like unheard of. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, but before we get to that, we do have someone who did something this weekend, flesh and blood related. That would be Noah, played in a tournament. I do not know how you did, but the fact that I don't know how you did probably means not very well. Uh, but Noah, how did your weekend or week in Flesh and Blood go?
Yeah, so I played in a tournament on Sunday at Grave Troll, my local store. We have monthly tournaments. It's like a thing called Project Player. Basically, every month, people come in to play at the store. There's a couple other stores locally that are part of like this conglomerate where, as you do well, kind of like AGE, you get points. Then there'll be a big event next year with the top 16 people, I think, being invited. So I was talking um, with people about not playing KO because it's just the only deck I play, and I don't know, it's not been the best to me recently. So I was thinking about playing something else for this tournament, but at the end of the day, I just decided to sub KO again. I've kind of been on a quest for proving Yuanji either right or wrong. He is convinced that there's something, I think he calls it like the hero's fallacy of you feel like you have so much more control over the outcome of the game than you actually do. So, like for example, playing a deck, I'll use like Assassin as an example. Playing a deck like Assassin, you think that I'm going to win a game because my opponent will make the wrong choice, not necessarily because my math is better and like my cards have bigger numbers on them, but they made the wrong decision and then that's what led me to win. So therefore, I'm superior, they're inferior, and this kind of like hero thing exists. So I've been forcing myself to keep playing KO, where that is just completely not a factor in the game at all. It's purely based on I play Wild Ride, I have a Beast Within. Okay, I didn't hit the Beast Within. I play like um another turn where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna draw discard. Okay, I hit my blue, I lost 3 damage. It's like just many instances of purely rolling dice as opposed to careful planning like you might do in another deck. Even Dio would be like an example of this too, where you're kind of planning for um different things to appear on the top of your deck. Connor can get into this more later, but I think like each deck in Fab has its own angle of how much agency you really have over the outcome. KO being one of the least, in that you can make the right choices, but it still comes down to RNG at the end of the day. And recently, this weekend being no exception, that RNG has not been in my favor. So I'm gonna now try. I mean, maybe I'll still play KO for the next 1 or 2 weeks because I'm lazy and don't want to learn something new. But I'm gonna now try to prove the opposite end of what Yuanji thinks and see if maybe there is like truly a skill factor of you can play a much worse deck than your opponent, but if you make better decisions and they make worse decisions, you can win even though your math is like worse than them. So this is what I've learned from this weekend. I had lots of time to think about this as I was watching my friends play and not playing any more rounds of the tournament myself.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. I know all
Mhm.
about that happening with KO.
Yeah.
But so what deck are you gonna choose that's inferior to your opponent and that you think you
Well,
can
I
make
was
good
hoping
decisions
that
with?
there would be some juice in this Slippery Armory deck. I am holding out hope as to whether we get huge upgrades or not. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping that I can go back to playing some sort of assassin. I mean, I can always just jump on the bandwagon of marionette like a lot of other people have. But I feel like that's admitting defeat to Dan now. So I'm not sure if me as a person can stomach that. But yeah, I think some kind of assassin is usually the deck where your numbers are worse on paper, but when things line up or when your opponent makes mistakes is when you can really get ahead. And I think if I think that I have some amount of skill, then playing a deck that has many more decisions that the opponent has to make correctly will lead to more success. This is how I'm framing it in my head.
I mean, I would agree, except then also Marionette has some of the highest high rolls you can possibly get in the game right now. So
Exactly. That's the
it's
hard part. That's why I don't want to play Marionette. Whereas I feel like Slippy is not really that. It's more like just you either click the go again or you click the react, and you have to always ask your opponent that question. Um, yeah. Whereas Marionette, it's kind of just like, okay, I'm going to play 4 buffs and 2 next swing of Fat Chalicera. It's like, yeah, it's 15. You're already marked on hit draw. What are you going to do?
yeah, a little tough. I guess we
Yeah.
will. We have some things to talk about on the meta. Maybe we'll find a different deck for you as we go through
Mhm.
it. But Connor, you haven't got to come on since your run at Worlds. I think you're definitely one of the very few people who have ever gone undefeated in CC at any Worlds event. Um, and you did it on Dio, and Dio continues to put up results. I mean, looking just at the previous calling, but talk a little bit about your Worlds experience playing Dio.
Yeah, we did it. Dio, I've been playing her all year, and she really paid out for me. Um, 9-0 on Dio. I played against 6 Syndras, a Kano, a Jarl, and a Verdance. So I just had the Syndra down matchup down like I played so many times because the games are so fast, and so you need a ton of reps on it. And with the new armor, with Tinker Reigns plus adaptive plating, that matchup's really good now for Dash IO, and I just was able to ride that, and then ride my experience playing into fatigue, um, and beat the other kind of defensive decks. Um, and then I had a off table feature match against Kano, against actually one of Cody's locals, Zach Miller. But
Mhm.
just a run where I the best thing about Dio, sometimes you do run hot or whatever. Like the variance just plows a path for you that's really nice or whatever. And sometimes you do draw terrible, and then you have to kind of make your own variance and kind of like find your way out of the little crappy draw you just had or whatever. Um, but we were able to fight through any of the awkward draws and hit all of our big ones, and it was so sick, dude. It was awesome. I ended up going um 5-0 on day one, and then I played the system reset Dio deck in LL. Um, I was the only madman on our team that decided to play that one. Um, and the deck was good. I did not do well with it though. So I went 5-0 into 0-3 in LL into a night of crashing out or whatever. Not really though. I bounced back pretty well. I bounced back like a bad bitch. Um, but uh and then the next day, get a win in LL. Like I'm like, all right, we're back. We're so back. I lose to Starvo, Paul Van Heisel playing it, who actually won Call in Valencia this past weekend. I lost to him. Then I beat a Viscerai in the last round of LL, and I'm like, we're back, baby. All right, we're done with LL. We just try to finish it off in CC, and then I get to play against Syndra, Verdance, Syndra. And I'm like, all right, blocked on my armor, played my boom grenades, just go fast, and then just came out on top of it. It was awesome. Probably one of the best weekends I've had.
So do you think if you would have just subbed your CC deck for every round, you would have done better?
Possibly, yeah. Honestly, I lost to Gravy twice in LL. I lost to Justin Koo and Jacob Clemens, and they also just had 3 Amulet of Echoes in their deck, so I could just never combo against them. But like, if I just put 3 high octanes in my deck, literally could cut 3 random cards from my CC deck, add 3 random like high octanes, and I'd have a better win rate against them. I was like, no, these stupid Art of Wars, get out of here. But
Yeah, I was actually I saw some because I was in the very low tables during Worlds. I saw some people playing just like normal Dio, and I was
mhm.
like, this is kind of an interesting call in this format because everyone is so teched for the like combo Dio that like if you're just boom grenading them and they have Amulet of Echoes in their hand, what are they doing? You know,
Mhm.
would have been funny.
Here's a real question though. Did you have two Dio decks, or did you have one Dio deck that you edited?
I had mostly 2 Dio decks. I just have a bunch of the match like commons and uncommons. And now I've been like getting cold foils and stuff. So I have cold foils and unfoils, cold foils. So I had like 2 mostly. The list of cards I had to switch over though was so embarrassing. It was really poor planning. It was like 1 red T-bone, 1 red expedite, 1 red 0 to 60. Just somehow just only had 5 of those or whatever. And So that was kind of a fun little game in between. But it was funny after. So day one, we all got the random diner promos or whatever, right? And I got Dash IO, and I was like, nice, hell yeah. And but for LL, I just used my same cold foil hero for my LL deck that I always use, and just left the diner one in my bag. And then after I went 0-3, I was like, we need a vibe change. Something wasn't right, whatever. Put the diner DO in there, got the hot dog DO, and then 2-1, and I was like, all right, we're back. The vibes are refreshed. We're back. We're in a good spot now. So that one came up clutch. So that's gonna be the LL DO, and then my cold foil will be the CC DO.
Nice. Well, Dio has been doing super well. It did
Mhm.
actually well in this calling that just happened, and that's something I wanted to talk about. Luckily, we have the data to be able to actually look at what happened at this most recent calling. But something that we didn't expect happened. Syndra did not win the tournament. We have been saved. There, I don't know. I can't remember the last time there was like a deck that has won this many events in a row, like calling plus level events just in a row. It's like what, been 3? It's been 3 now. Until this one, including Worlds as one of the decks. So pretty cool to finally not just be Syndra winning. And right before the ban announcement, we're supposed to be getting on the 15th. So we'll talk about a little bit how that shaped it up. But what I wanted to do is bring attention to the fact that what everyone is talking about is people have decided Mario is actually a good deck. They have figured out that it is good into Syndra, and the Verdance matchup is completely playable, and they have decided to bring it. It had a 60% win rate at the calling. Of course, we don't have Dan on the podcast for this episode. That would be unbearable. So we couldn't do that to ourselves. But Noah, what do you think about the one having a 50% conversion to day 2 that Mario had, and then also just more people showing up with Mario?
Yeah, I think firstly, it makes sense that a lot of people would show up. I mean, we don't have all the deck lists for the people in the tournament, but when there's prominent players in the community posting Metafy guides about a deck, we definitely see the adoption go up, because it's like, okay, now this person is having success with this deck. There's someone who's chosen to play the whatever deck they feel is best for the format. They're not just like a known Mario truther. And they've collaborated with Kashi, who's like the known like Mario stan, played him for forever and had success with Assassin. So it's like the combination of someone who plays the best deck with someone who's an Assassin stan. They work together on a list, and I think that clearly that produces some amount of results for people to be motivated to take it to big tournaments. And I think Mario, just as a deck, has a lot of the best play patterns like for satisfaction of playing. I don't know if this is a motivating factor for people, but just like when your opponent is marked and you just took like 2 or 3 cards out of their hand, you're drawing up, you're like, okay, I have Chalister, I have Clave, maybe my Tunic is coming up to 3 as well. Like, it's just so hard for me to draw a hand that's non-functional, that can't like at least do something, whether it's damage or disrupting my opponent. And so I think it offers a little bit of a reprieve of when you're playing some of the other decks, like you're talking about, um, let's say like Verdance, for example. If your opponent passes to you with like the full tempo, you're really hoping to see like very specific cards that actually let you convert your hand. Whereas I think if you just go categorically down the line of the Mario deck, because almost every single card in the deck costs 0 and has go again or doesn't spend an action point, it's just so hard to draw a hand of cards that doesn't function in a way of converting everything on offense. And I think that's been one of the things that's always held Assassin back, is that they usually have to deal with awkwardness of like cards need to work specifically together to actually do something. While that's still the case, some hands, I would say the vast majority of hands in the current iterations of Mario are just like extremely smooth at being able to convert everything on offense, especially with the fact that Orb Weaver Spinneret is now like a 9 of. So in addition to being able to block with your hat to manually transform, you have 9 of just like, okay, I'm gonna actually start playing the game now. I have my real weapon set up and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we know a lot about this because we've dealt with Dan playing Mario for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it very interesting Mario's tick up rate makes perfect sense. I think there's a world where had I had more time, I would have probably played Mario at Worlds, and felt pretty good about that, personally. But when it was like I have like a month, and I also have to work on LL because they kept nerfing my hero, I'm like, I'm just gonna play KO and move on with my lives, and I'm still happy with that. But Mario was definitely like my second choice there. I think giving people enough time to play the deck and get good at it, you see more results. They got better at beating verdants. They basically beat everything except for Acilio at this last event. Um, but one of the other numbers I want to talk out outside of just Mario's like crazy conversion rate and the fact that like it just draws hands that just win the game on the spot. Like if you want to see like crazy hands, you can just literally look at my game on stream against Mario as KO at Worlds, and he's just the hands that my opponent's drawing versus the hands I'm drawing are just the game's unfunctional. And that's just like one of the powers of Mario. But one of the other things to talk about KO is beating up Syndra at this event, which is pretty cool. It had almost a 60% win rate into Syndra. I think that's something that we found to be pretty accurate. But that did a lot, I think, to the meta to stop Syndra from being able to even top 8.
Yeah. I agree, man. I don't know. I think gravy people just like, it's very unfortunate if you're a Syndra player and you pair into a gravy player who's having the day where the gravy deck is their best friend.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, well now I'm not even beating the matchup that I'm, came to the tournament expecting to beat. So yeah, I think it's just tough for Syndra if people have figured out the matchup from like fringe decks beating you now. I'm counting KO as a fringe deck, sadly, but it is. Fringe decks are beating you now, and you're still um, losing to the other like prominent decks because of just some people are him. I think it's tough to be in a spot of Syndra. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're known Syndra haters as well. Like none of us play Syndra at any tournament. So I feel like you don't come to this podcast to listen about how to improve at your Syndra skills and why Syndra's the GOAT.
I mean, I would agree. I I still think Syndra's probably the best deck in the game. I don't think that's really changed, but I do think there are decks that can actually tackle it. And it was just that like Mario can beat Syndra at a pretty good clip, but it's like the Mario players still have to sometimes be able to beat Gravy, and they had to figure out verdants. And I think a lot of them were like a little scared of verdants at one point in time, but they got better at that. Speaking of Dio, though, Dio put up some great numbers. Also beating Syndra like 70% is insane. Obviously good into Gravy, good into verdants, good into Acilio, which is even better. But I wanted to ask Connor, what do you actually think of the Dio Mario matchup?
That one can be a little tough. Mario has a lot of 0 for 4 D reacts. They can try to fatigue you. They can also, like Noah was talking about, convert a lot of their hands really well on offense. And so as the DO player, you really have to thread the needle of applying pressure so that what they have to block, so they don't convert the cards into cards on offense or disruptive cards. But also not blow through your deck and then get fatigued because they have a bunch of D reacts. So it's a kind of um, tightrope you have to walk against Mario. So if you're a Dio player, I would, if you get some games of the matchup, it's not as scary. But if you're a little rusty on the matchup, it's pretty bad. Just because Mario's attacks are pretty hard to block out. Um, and their disruptive attacks, we don't really have the tools to block them out. So a lot of times you just have to like eat their Mark of the Black Widows and then just throw your 3 card hand plus arsenal and like try to get as much value as you can out of it. So uh that style fatigue deck or that style defensive deck, so you don't get to do like setup turns into big turns. You kind of have to do like big, like medium sized chunk value turns over and over again. And then have one turn where they block you out, and then on that turn you have to have the goods. That's like your go turn to find the max fee and do the whole thing. If you do that, they can't keep up with you on rate. But if you get disrupted a little bit, get behind, get low on life, if you ever have to block, it's like things can kind of roll downhill for you. So Mario getting better does make Dio a little bit worse, but it's not unwinnable or anything like that. But was there data on the Mario versus Dio matchup?
Yeah, it was like 55% Mario favored.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds about right. I mean, the Mario is not ultra disruptive. He's not like new or even any of the Bonds of Agony assassins. He threatens more value. Like I've never blocked a Kiss of Death in my life. Couldn't care less about that. Whatever, dude. Play your card.
For
Like,
for most people, they should learn that you probably don't want to block the Kiss of Death if
yeah,
possible. It's just
yeah.
when they go pump, pump, Kiss of Death, then you're like, okay, this is the worst. I hate my
Then I look at
life.
my life pad and I go, I hope my life total's high enough.
Yeah.
Please, please.
True. I do think this ends up being pretty interesting. Obviously, Gravy ended up winning the calling.
Mhm.
Even though we're talking about all these other decks, it was still Gravy. I think the other decks might have made it a little easier for Gravy to win the game, but and do well. And they showed up in the top 8. It also just kind of depends on who's having their day. But no, Noah, I wanted to see, do you think we just have more adaptation that could be made in this meta? Do you think the meta is rejuvenated? Do you think we still need the ban list on the 15th? Does this change any of your opinions in the current meta?
Well, now I've added Blood in the Water. Has always been a card that I've hated.
Yeah.
Now
Yo,
it's shown its power in the
hate
limelight.
it.
That card needs to go. It's just like one of the stupidest cards. It's like chart on defense. I don't know why
Dude,
they printed that card.
the amount of empathetic pain I felt for that Dio player when Paul Van Dijssel in the final has 2 Blood in the Waters and uses his Twit Dodge Flexors and covers the whole max V turn and the 0 to 60 afterward. That's been me 1,000 times, dude. 1,000 times. And I was just like, my brother, I feel so bad for you. I totally get it, whatever. Just like hits the blind, blood in the water. Oh, just so brutal. I
It's
hate that
basically
card.
like, you know how Victor is terrible, but when he
Mhm.
blocks with Test of Strength and makes a gold and draws a card, it's broken.
Yeah.
Gravy is amazing. And then he also can just block with a 4 block and draw a card. Like, how is that a mechanic? Like, he was already so insane, and then now he just also has this crazy defensive mechanic. So, yeah, there just like has to be some cards in Gravy that go, just because there's too many things that can happen over the course of the game that are just, you can't even talk about rate because it defies like the normal math, like the amount of value you're getting off of these plays that are just good plays, but also happen to make you have like 5 arsenal zones because you have so many guys in the graveyard. So I think like just like, I mean, we've been saying this for forever. That's something in Gravy just has to go. Like, regardless of whether he wins every tournament, the deck is obviously just the most, like, the one full of the most powerful things that can possibly happen throughout the course of the game. Um, I think like there has to be something addressed there. Obviously, Verdance did terrible, so I still stand by that. Like, you don't really need to hit anything in Verdance. I mentioned on the Breakpoints podcast I was on last week that I think like an unban of Winter's Whale would be sick, and I still agree with myself. Um, so I think something like this, because also if we look at what makes the Mario deck strong, is the fact I mentioned earlier that like you basically play the entire deck as 0 cost. And Syndra, I mean, what makes Syndra strong is the entire deck is 0 cost. Then you have Verdance, like the whole deck is based on playing cards that cost 3. Um, and these are decks that don't have Tunic, right? Like the talking about Verdance and Syndra. So I think the like Winter's Whale injecting an element of giving at least some reason to play like real Flesh and Blood would be like a very nice include. So I think if LSS decides to make this ban list like very small, it would just be hit something in Gravy and unban Winter's Whale rather than actually banning cards from Verdance or Syndra.
We both know you don't actually believe that because like Fatigue Jarl would be literally insane.
Of course, yeah. I
Okay.
want that, man. What's wrong with that?
I don't believe you. I
Wait, what do you not believe?
I agree that Winter's Whale will be very strong in the current meta. That's the part that I
Yeah.
believe. The making Fatigue Jarl one of the best decks in the game, I do not believe.
Okay, I think I'm just extremely Guardian pilled because I prepped so much Starvo for LL. I love swinging the Winter's Whale, and I've been playing Oldham and Sage, and I love doing the ice, man. I just love doing the ice, and it's nice. Like, yeah, I want that to be a factor of the game again. It's just
Noah,
so annoying that
the
people get to
ice is
build all these
nice.
decks. Yeah, ice is nice. But people get to just ignore a mechanic of the game, which is like having to figure out resource curves and stuff. It's like when you play Mario, you're just swinging your Tunic Chelicera, or you're like buffing a Kiss of Death, or you're doing completely like zero cost plays with stealth cards, or when you have to actually pitch cards, then your turn is like bad. I want I want those turns that are bad to like happen more often. And similar thing with Syndra, like when you pitch to swing a dagger, it feels terrible. So I think there just needs to be more of these situations where you have to actually interact with the pitching mechanic of Flesh and Blood. There you go.
We went to the opposite. We went from blues are the best thing you can have in your deck, and the only decks that are viable in the game are all blue decks, to
Yeah,
to pitching. What is that? I just
yeah,
play zero cost all day.
exactly. And even Verdance too. Verdance is like similar to. I think it's a common trait among like Earth and Ice heroes that like they just often want to play on the 3 cost axis. So giving them one more Frostbite is just like usually pretty annoying.
Connor, you were mentioning how his Blood in the Waters were like insane, but he also got value out of Chum in that game, which I think if he doesn't, he probably still loses the game even with the good D react. It's pretty close then. Um, I still am of the opinion that we should just remove Chum from Gravy.
Yes, upvote.
Like, I just think that you give Tipples back. In my opinion, I'm going to keep saying it. Please give Tipples back so the deck functions as a deck that you can reliably play, and then remove Chum out of the deck so that it still has to interact with decks on a reasonable level. So give me consistency, take away my ability to say, no, you can't play your turns against me.
Okay, so I have a thought. You can interject after Connor. Uh, what if you talk about consistency, right, Cody?
Mm-hmm.
What if you just like, since Tipple is consistent, like you know what's going to happen. You draw the Tipple, you draw the ally, you draw the pitch card. But things like Chart and Blood in the Water are like theoretically inconsistent. Of course, you can use the compass, but there's some element of just like when you hit them blind is when it's the most powerful. And Swell is also in this discussion of like maybe you. I think this would never happen. Sorry, this is the worst run-on sentence of all time. I think this would never happen, but uh, if you just made the deck consistent and eliminated like some of the flashy plays, like you eliminate the possibility of doing Chart, Blood in the Water, and Swell, and instead bring back Tipple, so it's more like the Gravy player can actually map out a turn and the opponent can kind of see what's going to happen instead of having those situations of like when you're the opponent, you're just like, please fail, please fail, please fail. And then it's very flashy for the stream. This is why I think ultimately, if they want the stream to continue to be popular and the game to be exciting to watch, they won't do what I'm saying. But yeah, hitting some of these cards that are just like the splashy win the game kind of effects. You can think of like Chum and Anka are sort of in there too, where sometimes they go crazy and sometimes they're useless. Um, yeah, if they just toned down on like the crazy spike value and just made it more like consistent with Tipples and stuff, I think that would be a nice direction to take Gravy on the ban list.
I mean, I can agree that like Chart is probably sometimes a little too high or too strong. I don't think Swell is very good.
Yeah, I think
At
Swell
mattering.
sucks as a card, but like it's at least in the same ballpark of cards to discuss. I think just Chart and Blood in the Water are usually the bigger offenders.
I think Blood in the Water like deserves to continue to be in the deck for how it functions. Um, it is a powerful card that also like lets you get a guy in. Like the value is insane, but it does need some way to block when it has like infinite no blocks in its deck that it's running. So it does quite often. Sometimes it looks overly good. Most of the time, it's just like actually letting you block with some cards from your hand. Chart is what allows you to have small or bigger turns than you're expecting, or have like one card plays. I like things like that existing, but I understand if it's like a little bit too pushed. But you can't take all of those things away and then also like Chum. My issue with like Chum is that Chum just invalidates a lot of decks that could have interesting strategies against Gravy, more or less, not just like the power level. So like quite often, this is very interesting. When I was playing KO into Gravies, there were several times where my opponents could have played a Chum, but they decided to instead play like a Swabby or something else that dealt more damage. And I thought that was wrong almost every single time they did it. I'm looking at my hand going like, please don't play Chum. Please don't. I think I lose the game if you play Chum. As like KO, I did it as Zen as well. in my games, and then just in practice in general. It was quite often where it's just like, if they play Chum here and they resolve Chum, I probably lose, or at least I'm like really far behind now in my tempo that I want to do, just because of how my turn works out. And they all just like chose not to do it. And I won a lot of those games. Sometimes I lost, but sometimes I could have lost even worse. And I think the point is just that Chum is what allows the deck to, once you get down to like the 15 health range, it allows it to actually close the game. Without that, you have much more different strategies going on where when you're both at like 15, but one's able to be like, hey, here's some damage, and then here's a Chum, and then here, deal with the Chum. I'm going to keep some cards next turn guaranteed and do it again. And so now you're in a weird spot where you're like, am I going to drop below 15? Because then the hand after that, after I kill the Chum, now I might actually have to block cards more. And now I have to clear just the guy, and I lost the game. And I think if you remove that ability, you have a lot more able to go face at Gravy. I mean, Marlin just in general is able to actually play the game against them. There's a bunch of these decks that can actually now pivot to a different type of strategy, where the no blocks in the deck become way more punishing later in the game, because Chum kind of either fixes the early game when I play it or fixes the late game when you play it, and kind of gives you that breathing room. I think removing that strongly damages the deck more than I think people realize. And I think it's a good thing, like a positive way, to make playing against Gravy make more sense. As the Dio player, what do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, Chum, that boy just hits 0 to 60 in pistol shot. That's how you handle him.
What about when they do fearless after you pistol shot and then you cry?
And then you crack your Achilles and sadly shoot it again. Usually, it's usually you go, okay, you got me. No, I think it made sense. I think we want to keep Gravy. I think is one of the better heroes in the game, though. I think he's a good villain to have on top. He does have the illusionist problem where he cuts out certain strategies, but he is susceptible to like aggro decks. Mid-range decks can have like kind of flexible-ish plans into him. He is a really interesting deck to play with and against, which I think is a really good thing for the format.
What do you think is interesting? I find it so uninteresting to play against Gravy.
Does they just do the same thing every time? Whatever.
No, because just nothing is interesting. Like, I'm making no decisions. I'm purely being reactive to whatever nonsense men they put on the board.
Well, listen, Mr. KO guy, I'm sorry I can't give you enough decisions or whatever into the matchup, but
No, but I mean, like, what makes you think it's interesting?
well, no, I just think it's like the deck just interacts on a different axis and is able to like roll over value better turn to turn. So like
I
you
think
have
it's interesting
more
to watch. I just find it thoroughly unenjoyable and uninteresting to play against.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I just play a deck that really kills allies pretty well. Like an ally, I'm just like I'm gonna expedite the shit out of that thing. I'm gonna crate
Yeah,
my
you
whatever
profitably
and
kill the allies.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so like with that kind of standard, you're just like, oh, they like you'll take damage, but the damage is like mostly vanilla. But I think that he's a good mid range deck to have exist because he's not a defensive fatigue deck. He's like busted on numbers instead, kind of like how Dromai was or anything like that. But I'm fine with hitting something from Chum or from Gravy. I don't think it can be Chum. I think he's just too core to the identity. But maybe a hit, like you said, blow in the water, or I don't know. Maybe chart might be the best hit, but I don't think you need to hit anything. I like the idea of adding something to the format instead. Unban. I don't know about Winter's Well, but
Introduce
something
just
along
on
those
the
lines.
15th, instead of banning things, just introduce a new card. There you go. That is
That'd be
Connor's
fun.
that's Connor's
Yeah.
solution apparently. And then
Well,
Release a new
immediately spawn it in everyone's pocket.
yeah. Release a new card in the meta and let it see what it does.
I would like to see Syndra tone down. I think that deck is incredibly boring to play against, as every single deck in the entire game. I have no interest in actually playing against Syndra. It's just, I will block with cards. I will stop you from getting masked. I will try and not get tricked out by some +1 over. And that is like the whole game. And sometimes they will just have the hand that does the thing and you're behind. And then
Yeah, what matchup do you think is actually interesting? To me, the only actual like interesting deck to play against is Mario, because it feels like I have some kind of control of like I can make a judgment call of what matters for their hand texture and block accordingly or not block accordingly. Whereas I feel like most of the other decks, it's like extremely face up what's supposed to happen, and I'm just kind of like either taking the L or um, I'm stomping them.
To be fair, in the current meta, there are not that many decks that are fun to play against.
Hmm.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for how the current meta is. I think it's a little boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even like using the words like fun and stuff. I just think of like interesting in terms of how much my decisions are really impacting the outcome of the game. I think in Syndra, obviously your decisions matter, but at this point, it's like relatively obvious if you've been playing your deck for a while of how you know that your deck needs to interact with theirs. Um, Similar thing with Verdance of like whether your game plan is to like not take damage or it's to try to just take everything and kill them before they get online, or like what your strategy is. Your strategy in the gravy of killing men, killing certain men, killing zero men. Uh, I think all of this is kind of just like your game plan is thought out at this point. The only one that's interesting is like the fringe decks, as well as Mario, where you have to evaluate your game plan like every turn on the fly based on what form they roll into, whether you're marked, um, what you perceive of their deck. If they're playing like the Codex of Inertia builder, if they're playing a lot of like Connor, you said that they play a lot of 0 for 4s. Like I think the current Jacob Clements deck has just Fate Foreseen as the only 0 for 4, whereas like other ones in the past have played like up to 9 0 for 4s. So I think like yeah, that's one of the only decks where you really can adapt your game plan differently throughout the game, and it's like interesting as the decisions evolve compared to the top three.
I don't know, in this meta, there hasn't been as many, I guess, interesting games to play against. It's more dependent on what deck I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I was playing Gravy and Gravy's functioning like a real deck, I liked playing against every deck. I thought it was interesting and fun, and there was like a lot of decisions I felt like I was making on how to get around turns and play turns and do things like that. Obviously, there were the games where the deck just didn't do anything, and that's why I stopped playing the deck. But when it was actually a real deck, every match against everyone, even Syndra, was interesting because you're playing a game in a way that feels like, whether you have the control or not, it feels like you have the control and you're making a lot of decisions that are impacting the outcome. So I kind of agree with that. Before that, like Slippy, when we played Slippy, I love playing Slippy into everything. It was like every deck, I
Yeah.
was just like, this is fun. I enjoy every aspect of this. I put my cards this way for 3, or do I put it this way for 3? And then you just go through the whole game that way. I liked playing KO into stuff, but it's not making any decisions that matter. It was just more like watching a movie
Yeah.
that you didn't know the
Yeah, KO
ending
is
to.
like when you're playing a video game that's like basically a movie,
Yeah,
and you just have to like do the quick time events.
yeah.
You're like, okay, I press A now. Okay, now we continue.
I have been thinking about maybe putting some time into Dio, because Dio looks like it's actually fun to play, and probably
Well,
has some level of like feeling like you have control over the outcome of your
I
game.
would say Dio and Gravy kind of scratch the same itch in that regard, right? Where you don't really care about your opponent at all. Like you don't actually need an opponent to play the game. The opponent is just there to try to stop you from doing what you're doing. So you're just kind of like, okay, I'm going to play my single player game, and there happens to be an opponent across from me, and if they win the game before me, then I lose. That's kind of how I view those decks. Is like Dio, it's just a race of like I'm gonna explode you, and then Gravy's just a race of I'm gonna get my gold engine and my ally engine online and put you in a game state where you can no longer win the game.
Mhm.
So I think yeah, both those decks are just kind of scratching the same itch of wanting to have the single player victory experience in the multiplayer game. Which is not, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. It's just it makes sense that those two decks are always going to be interesting to play because you're just solving your own puzzle.
Both those decks also have high velocity. They see a lot of cards per game,
Mhm.
so the plans, like you can enact your game plans more often. Where KO, I think I remember Cody saying like it's a top 20 cards of the deck kind of deck. You know what I mean? It's like you get this swath of the deck, and then that's your plan for that game. Where with these higher velocity heroes that see most of their deck, you can have more specific plans or have one ofs matter more, make decisions that feel good like that.
Maybe that's this whole format then. Maybe it's just like the fun is not the decks you're playing against. Um, they're just like the decks you're playing,
Mhm.
Yeah,
because because we have had formats where like playing against some of the top decks are interesting, if you want to use that term, but like that's not really how it feels this side. It's more just whatever hero you decided to play is interesting. The rest of the
Yeah.
heroes are not. Like playing against Verdance is never interesting, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. I think the most interesting things is basically just what it boils down to. I think is the most interesting decks to play against are the decks that are trying to disrupt you in terms of removing your ceiling
Mhm.
instead of Syndra being a deck that disrupts you by raising its own ceiling of drawing extra cards. The decks like ice decks, like Oldhim, Icelander, um, the Assassins, but like new also included. Those are the decks I find are just like more interesting to play against because they're trying to lower your ceiling and make the game go long and grindy compared to the current flavor of decks, which is just enacting their own game plans of trying to raise their own ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I do think LL ruined me because like I got to play Zen again and I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy it. I still think about it from time to time. Like I'll just be like walking through my apartment and I'll be like, man, playing Zen was so fun. Like it's just like it's
Mhm.
like I don't know exactly why. And that wasn't even my favorite version of Zen that I've played. It was just like I played Zen for almost completely a year straight, and the very like defensive on off like mid-rangey Zen deck is like at the time did not feel like one of my favorite decks of all time, but now looking back on it and thinking about it and thinking about decks I've played since and before is one of my favorite decks I've ever played. And I had forgotten how much I missed that, or how playing Flesh and Blood used to feel.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah.
even worse. Like that's like even a worse feeling that like LL gave me back, which is like I was playing Zen and I was like, dude, I miss this. Like I miss playing games like this. Um, not that power level, not that power scale, but just like decks that function that way, where you had a game plan, your deck like tried to do a thing, then you were doing that, and then you were reacting to what your opponent was doing, which was contained within your deck functioning. Like, and that's just not kind of how the deck game feels right now. Um, and that's kind of what I missed. So maybe it ruined me. I'm hoping the next set brings some of that back. I just want decks with core identities that function. Like the core needs to function.
Mhm.
Hmm. And this is we got to caveat all the stuff that we say because like we're not saying this is the gospel. This is just like what we think. Other people can enjoy the game in their own ways. This is just like I think how Cody and I enjoy the game is more in this sense.
It's also like
There's nothing wrong with blasting.
yeah, it's also like the meta changes. That's one of the
Mhm.
nice things about Flesh and Blood is the core game mechanics are very good. The way the game plays is very well designed, and almost every single time we get a new set or a new couple of sets, the format or the meta is like is a different skill test within the bounds of the game. And that's why we've always talked about how we've had like math, we've had like math formats. This is like in my opinion a top 20 format. This is we've had Amsterdam, my least favorite format, which was like two ships passing in the night format. Like we've had all these formats they test different skills. We've had full game plan formats where you just won based on how if you could game plan better than your opponents did. And the nice thing about this card game and what I'm hoping to eventually get out of this metagame is typically we get metagames that test different things that are like playing different aspects of the game. We've just been in this one for a while because Super Slam didn't do anything.
Okay, this is a great segue. Do you have any thoughts, Connor, on this topic before I transition?
I was just thinking about how I feel bad for people that don't play Dio because they think their decks are boring. And my deck is so fun and cool to play, and I wish you guys could experience that.
But
But
secretly,
well,
you don't, right? Because you don't want to play the mirror match.
well,
no,
if
I'll play the mirror.
you
Yeah.
would like to be able to play Dio and
Okay.
have as much fun as Connor has a guide coming out on Metafy. Should be released by the time you're listening to this on Dio. The Dio master himself, the amount of people who have asked me to be able to contact Connor to be able to talk about Dio is too high. It is very funny. Anytime I go anywhere, and I'm like, hey, oh yeah, you're playing Dio. Oh, Connor is on my team. He plays Dio all the time. Blah blah. Like, oh, Connor's on your team. And I was like, yeah. He's like, Connor's great. And I was like, I know Connor's been popping off this whole year on Dio, so it only makes sense for him to release a guide undefeated at Worlds. I mean, this is probably, I'm waiting for it to come out so that I can read it, because like I've been saying, I'm thinking about picking up Dio so I can actually have some fun in this meta. Anything you want to say about your guide coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it still. I think it's gonna be. I'm hoping that it'll help people understand the mindset you need to have as you navigate the games, and be more about that part of the deck as opposed to just like cut this target against this matchup or whatever, um, and how you need to prioritize depending on the matchup and how the games are playing out. Um, the deck, this version of it, this like really low to the ground, a lot of zero costs, super max V focused version has been around basically since CYK played it at Auckland. I top four Kansas City with it. It got second at Valencia this past weekend. It's this kind of build that a lot of people have been playing, have success with, and it kind of feels like the community as a whole has kind of narrowed in on it. But I think the deck's great. I think people that like aggressive decks can play it and get a lot of reps with it and be happy to go into RTN season. So hang out, spend the holidays with Dio, put her in RTN season, and you'll have a great time.
Spend the
Get your
holidays
reps
with
in.
Dio. Now that is a
Yeah.
tagline right there. That was off the dome. That's a good tagline right there.
Just you and her next to the fireplace, you know.
Spend the holidays with Dio. That's a okay. That's a good one. Cool. But feel free to look in the link below, or in the comment section below, for a link to the guide coming out with this episode. Noah, you said there was something else you wanted to talk about. Do you still remember what that was before you had a coughing fit?
Yeah. Sorry, my what's the one for when you drink water? Is that trachea or esophagus? Esophagus for sure, right?
Yeah.
My esophagus failed me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, man. It was no disrespect meant. I just physically could not consume the water. I tried to rush for the mute button, but I was like too busy dying, and my arm didn't work. And I was thinking, also, I do this too in my game. If you ever played against me, you probably have heard this before. That like, whenever I give my opponent like a quicken token off a swing big or something, I talk about giving them a present. So whenever your opponent doesn't block and you boom off the top, you're like, here's a present for you.
No, one of my favorite things that's happened is we were playing at some AGE thing, and I'm like playing DL. I'm like thinking, shuffle my cards, check the top card of my deck, shuffle my cards, check the top card of my deck, shuffle my card, check the top card of my deck. You're like, and I'm like about to do something. You're like, hold on, check the top card of your deck again. Like, check the top again.
Yep.
I was like,
I just need to know if it was a boom, man.
It wasn't, but I was hoping.
Yep. Also, there was a crazy moment on stream too in Valencia. I don't know if you saw this. It was like one of the earlier rounds. A Dio was playing against a Mario, and like I don't know if the Mario was like an old Dio player or something. But at the start of the game, the Dio like draws their 4 and looks at the top. The Mario draws their 4 and looks at the top. Someone pointed it out in the comments. I was like, wow, there's no way that actually happened. I scrolled to the timestamp and yeah, they just like, oh, okay. You get to look. I guess I get to look too. It was insane. I don't know what round it was, but yeah, if you look at the Valencia comments, there's definitely that occurring.
That's great.
Dude, that's honestly the main reason I need to play Dio and LL. It's just like I would for sure just look at the top with any other deck. Like absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
You got that muscle memory down. It's like your step is like draw 4. All right, look. It's like part of your normal process, right? Who needs a tunic? I got my my look.
Maybe I can only play Lyeth. That's the secret.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned this. Because that's what I was going to talk about. Because Cody said Super Slam was a failure and it sucks. But Lyeth has been rejuvenated. Have you explored any of the like Jason, I think, played the exact same deck as Oliver Berry's been playing. Have you explored that deck at all, Cody, or you're not a fan?
I have spent like a month and a half on that deck to try and bring it to Worlds.
Yeah.
To be fair.
No, I meant like the physical list that people have been playing now. Have you tried with that one at all?
I think it is only like 6 cards different, maybe, from what I was playing. I think, and I said this before, I don't think I've said it on like a podcast, but I think the deck is pretty decent. You win a lot of your games if you can open with like an aura. It makes a lot of games easy. The failure states for the deck are kind of just like the second big setup So the first setup turn is pretty easy to do. Like the first big turn is pretty easy to do. It's the second turn after that to close out the game is pretty hard. If you take too much damage between the 2 points, the deck doesn't block very well. It blocks a little bit better now with like Peace of Mind and stuff in it, which is nice, and some of the healing cards. Playing against Syndra is really good for the deck. I like playing that matchup because having the extra card, having the armor, having the boots with Quell, which is pretty nice. All these things help quite a lot, and everything that you resolve into Syndra is basically true damage because they're not going to block. So in that aspect is good. It's terrible against Prism. The Gravy match is rather playable, and then it has like a way to beat Verdance on both axes. It can kind of win fatigue wise, and then it can definitely win just like doing big attacks. So sometimes you just like smush them down as they're trying to set up, and then sometimes they like start to try to play the game with you. If they don't have pots and stuff, you can just keep pitching to AB and then never take damage from them. But I think Jason played it great. I was super happy to see that he's playing it. Obviously, I think Oliver Berry is kind of like the founder of this deck. Had the original good run with it, and I've been playing it at locals. So if you ask my locals, I show up with it quite often. I've been testing it out. I think it's like, it feels like it's a couple of cards or maybe like a meta change away from being like an actual really top deck, but it needs to be able to keep something like Syndra, which is like a good matchup, in mind. With that said, he played against a lot of different things and had like a great run. Finished X4, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, he was telling me that he just like punted every game that he lost. So who knows if he could.
The deck is
better.
incredibly difficult to play. It is. I cannot stress how much a 5th card completely changes every heuristic you've ever had in your life, and then also like the the math way. Like if you actually do the math of how many more decision trees it gives you is astronomical. So it's definitely a deck that requires a lot of practice so that you can really narrow down the amount of decisions to like an actual small amount that's relevant. And then when you start putting in things like the aura that draws a card when you play it and when it leaves field and things like that, it starts really making the decision making difficult. And quite often you are playing stuff on one turn to set up into another turn or set up 2 turns later. So it can be quite a difficult deck to play properly.
I love that aspect, man. Like the concept of playing cards on one turn and then realizing their value multiple turns down the line is like just it's Icelander throwback ish.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge fan of, and like knowing I assume in this deck too, like proper arsenal management is like extremely important, given that you need to like make sure you have a payoff for when all your stuff is breaking.
Yeah, and it's also funny if it's very sensitive of what you put in your arsenal as well.
Yeah.
Because only certain cards can go in there. It is just like saving your health is really important. So actually getting like the hardest way to play the deck is when they just are able to give you their whole hand blocking too often, because your ability to block is not very good. So they can often win trades against you if they just like have good blocking hands over and over again. They can put in front of your big attacks when you do pop off. But I think the deck is fun. I think it's pretty good. Obviously, it did well, at the calling, and I think it isn't completely solved yet either. And if we get
I think
anything in pen,
the triple razor reflex I think definitely helps with
Yep.
The problem you were talking about of being able to convert your hand, because it felt like converting hands turn over turn was not necessarily the problem, but I still don't really see how you solve that. It's kind of just the problem with reviled as a mechanic of just when you get behind, you're just kind of down and out.
It just needs more reviled cards. Like it just needs more cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like funny enough, it just doesn't have enough cards to play. But no, I spent a decent amount of time. Oliver was very nice and gave me the list, but even before he took it to the calling, and I was trying to make it work. Like I was like, man, if this is the thing, I will 100% bring this to Worlds. And there are mentions of this in our Discord, and everyone making fun of me, which is pretty funny. But I do think the deck is very fun. You should play it. You should build. I have it built. It's like literally sitting over there. It's my armory deck right now. So I bring it every week.
Yeah. I'm going to play it in Seattle in 2 weeks. So I'm thinking like if KO keeps being mean to me, maybe I'll show up with this thing.
You should play
Why
it.
not?
I think you would really enjoy playing the deck personally.
Yeah.
Now that we're like outside of like a world's testing cycle, I think it's worth picking up because that the amount of options you have on how to play turns is astronomical with that 5th card, and sometimes the 6th card when you have like when you have a card set. Oh,
Yeah. And I just like the idea of the attention grabber's arms is like such a sick mechanic too, where you can just like, okay, I can decide to speed up my clock 1 turn and have a 3 block on my arms. Seems great.
yeah. We will see these changes that are going to come on the 15th. We'll see what they are. I am a little worried that maybe the meta gets better for Mario post whatever they change to the 15th. We'll see how that goes. I think the way Mario is currently built, I think is very hard to play against in a meaningful way. It either draws the hands that just gas you or it doesn't.
I've actually found that like the way that our KO deck is built, it's pretty decent into Mario, just because the fact you can farm so many clashes that like
Mhm.
if you're able to get 2 vigors, you can play a 1 card hand, or 1 vigor, you can play like a 2 card hand back at them kind of thing. And the way the Mario deck is built now, it has so many 2 blocks that you just kind of like can attrition them down sometimes if they don't have like the crazy natty flip Black Widow kiss of death kind of hands.
To be fair, I think we're the only people who think this, but I don't think that matchup's bad for KO at all. At least not our
That's what I was
build.
trying to say. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, most people are like it is unwinnable for KO, or it's like really hard for KO, and I'm like I think we're like favored, at least
Mm-hmm.
in our testing. Even if you look at like my stream game against the Mario, if I could just draw a blue in my hands, I could have won that game, even though I was getting super high rolled.
Mm-hmm.
I just literally could not pair my Blood Rush and a blue the entire game. And
Stuff.
it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough when you're like, pitch a yellow, play Blood Rush, draw not blues.
Yeah.
What do? And then I'm still like pretty close to winning that game.
I think it's funny as well. The Prognosis is such an interesting card to play against KO, because the fact that we have like, I think my typical 60 is something like 21 to 24 reds, like 12ish yellows, like 9 to 12 yellows, and then the rest blues. So like there's a decent amount of hands where I'm just like, okay, I only have 2 out of those 3 colors. I'll just like not block this Prognosis because the EV is higher, of like they can just whiff and then I play my hand normally.
Mhm.
And if they take one of the reds or yellows, then I can still play a hand. So it's always an interesting like thing to calculate on the fly of like, okay, what have I seen so far in my deck? What's like the likelihood of my top cards versus can I actually function if I block and they have the reaction? So always fun to calculate.
Anything else we want to talk about before we go into some podcast questions? I don't know. We'll see. Well, go ahead.
Do you guys think Talk a Big Game could get unbanned?
I don't think
Maybe
so.
let some of the new heroes be good? No? Too toxic?
I think anything could happen, but LSS takes a lot of flack for like banning and unbanning cards. I don't think Talk a Big Game is one of the cards that they should be flip flopping about. Just like, it's banned, it's going to stay banned. Let's move on.
I mean, if
If
you
they
want to
wanna,
make
like,
life
unban-
good,
Yeah,
then yes, please.
Mhm.
I think if they, since the fact that they like banned it preemptively already, it's like they're just not going to unban it ever.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, actually, we were wrong 2 months ago. Let's flip it back or whatever.
Yeah, let's not do
But
that.
I don't know. I think it's one where I just like the idea of unbanning something, and you look at the unban like the ban list, and there's a lot of quick no's. You know what I mean? Like there's like nope, 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 nope. Okay, there's only a couple maybes. So, that was one that I was thinking that maybe might be able to sneak its way back into the meta, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. TBH. But
I don't know. I don't care if they unban anything. I don't even care if they ban anything. But I think they should. I think they should because it's boring.
Are we getting Sage bans also? I guess in theory,
Who
right?
knows?
Okay.
I mean, we have an RTN season to play coming up. I'm hoping they shake things up, and then what we get to play that at Seattle. Is that the one? with an
The
Yeah,
extra.
Sage is
Seattle,
the battle hardened at Seattle, so you
yeah.
play it if you failed on day one of the calling.
Yep. And that calling will be post ban list, I believe, as well.
No,
It will not.
Seattle is the 13 and 14, and then the ban
Oh,
list is the 15.
oh.
It's post Slippy Armory deck, but not ban list.
Okay. Satch.
They better not have messed up on any cards in that Slippy Armory deck then. No style.
I have a feeling that.
Serenade effects.
Oh, you mean messed up in that regard? Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Like,
Yeah, that
whoops.
would be sick, huh?
The printer messed this one up. Sorry, boys. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a it's just a 0 cost red stealth card, but they put 13 instead of 3. Like they just put an extra one in there. I'd be down with that.
All of a sudden, Slippy is playable again.
Yeah.
He's
0 for
back.
13. You say less.
Okay. Let's go into some podcast questions. These are asked by premium members of our MetaFi. If you'd like to be able to ask questions on the podcast, find people to practice with, get any of our deck lists that we put out with sideboard guides every single month, feel free to join in the link below. First question here from He Who Smites. What cards do you think should be banned or unbanned? It's almost like we were just talking about this. My serious answer is still going to be Tipple, unbanned, Chum, banned, hit like Brand or something from like Brand with Cinderclaw or something from Syndra. If you really want to get it down, at least get rid of the legendary card, the one of. That's so stupid that it exists to begin with.
Yeah. Wait, I have one more thing that we haven't talked about. What if they unbanned? Like, what if they introduced the concept of the restricted list in CC and did like one? Like they'd start limiting cards. So they like limit the Chum to 1, but then they also bring back Zephyr Needle to 1. Because Ira's just like doing nothing.
No, not.
You don't want one needle?
One needle is interesting. That one I can
That's
get
what I'm saying,
behind.
yeah.
But
Like
one
they just
of anything else, I disagree. I hate restrict to 1.
Okay.
But
one needle could be cool.
One needle is interesting. I think that one is at least I would toy around with. But other than that, I hate limited. You get one warmonger. I hate that.
I agree completely, yeah.
Yeah. I do think if you want Syndra to have natural predators, you should probably hit Verdance. Like Verdance is not I'm going to hit Verdance because Verdance is like winning every tournament. I'm going to hit Verdance so that other decks can play the game, and that will control Syndra. That's why you would hit Verdance.
Yep. I've said it before. I still think Fruits is probably the card that like hits it the least while still being pretty impactful.
Mm-hmm. And it's a common.
Exactly, yeah. It's just the card that makes the most sense. It has an armory promo, I think, but who cares?
Yeah. Rinzo asks, what are your thoughts for the last Blitz skirmishes?
I think it's hilarious that they just basically never cared to update the ban list. Because basically, if you look at the ban list of Blitz and see that Heart and Crossstrap is banned and Savage Sash is legal, you understand that they have not cared about Blitz in a long time. Like, clearly, they don't care at all. So, yeah, I'm happy to see it go.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss Blitz. I love Data Doll on Blitz. It's like the only place where you can play it with Techno Foundry Heart, and Data Doll is like one of the most fun decks. It's so great. It scratches every itch for me. Just being able to like kind of be like a dredge deck where you're banishing cards, seeing a lot of your deck, using all your equipment for a ton of value. I'll miss Data Doll. RIP to my girl. But otherwise, I'm fine with Blitz going off into the sunset.
Am I right or wrong in this assumption, Connor, that you really just play the game for fun? Because I feel like your MO for these decks of like why you enjoy them so much is that like win or lose, you're having a good time. Like you're boosting, you're getting to play so many cards, take so many game actions. Like, would you say this is true or no?
I'm here to press buttons. I'm
That's
not
what
here
I'm
to
saying.
win.
Like, you just like taking all the actions as opposed to like physically winning.
I'm pressing buttons, and if I press these buttons enough times, and I know how to press them, I will win.
Yeah,
So it's not that the deck's like it's not that I don't want to win. It's like I look at trying to win as in like, how do I get my engine of my deck to like get me over the top? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And instead of like
You're
trying to
hoping
go
that like
win. Yeah, like
the sum
go
of
ahead.
all your button pressings leads to a win at the end, not
Mhm.
necessarily just like focused on win at all cost. You're like, I want to win by getting my like machine rolling, as it were.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I'm good at too is building engine decks and then squeezing out like every percentage point out of them, like through heuristics and through like just good game plans and everything. And so that's like what I'm good at and what I've been doing since I played Magic the Gathering when I was like 15 or whatever. And
Mhm.
so it's just like that's just it's how my autism is wired, I guess. Is just to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But my friends have told me for 10 years, they're like, that's a Connor deck. And it'll be like a deck with all creatures that's just all button pressing
Yeah, yeah.
and not many kill spells, no like ways to interact. Just like this is my thing. It'll be better than yours, hopefully.
That makes sense because Azalea was the other deck you played a lot of as well.
Yep.
I will not
Well, and
interact. I will just push all the buttons on my turn and see what happens.
right. And like my button pushing is so fun, dude. I get a lot of choices. I get to live the top part of my deck all the time. Like I think that's kind of like I like Azalea and Dio because they're also kind of like magic decks where you don't like you're playing percentage points or whatever. Like I played Aurora for a couple tournaments and I was like, this is so boring. Like I just know what my turn's gonna be after I block. You know what I mean? Like there's
I
just
like
no
that,
other
man.
decisions.
Yeah.
I block and then I play the cards I have left, and that's just the game. That's so
Yeah, it's
boring. But I
nice and
like
good, man.
I know.
no,
I don't
That's
dude,
want to be rolling
awful.
dice in the middle of my turn, despite the fact that I'm playing KO.
No, you're not, dude. You're not rolling dice. You're going fishing, dude. We're going fishing for hits, trying to
Mhm.
find boom grenades, and you're trying to be as good of a fisherman as you can. You know, you got to find that stuff. So I don't know. That's how I like the changing game plans throughout the turn or changing play lines as you go.
that's
Mhm.
why I like Slippy because I looked at my hand and even before my opponent made an action, I said, I know what I'm doing with this hand. I'm blocking with at
Yeah,
least this match. I don't care what you're sending
yeah.
at me.
You're like block six, throw six. That's my turn, and that's
Ah,
just it over and over again.
clean,
Like,
It's beautiful, man.
oh,
It's
oh
music.
clean.
no, so boring. It's so boring. It's crazy. It's crazy you guys like the game when you play it like that. It's wild
Oh,
to
dude, I
me.
relish in the boredom, dude.
I
It's
love,
fantastic.
yeah, I love that the game when it functions that way
Mhm.
Nope.
because then it doesn't matter. It's not about clicking, but I'm not. It's not about how dexterous you are. It's about like your overall arching game plan through the whole game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Where mine's like, I just squeeze enough juice out of my thing, and I'm like, was that enough? I think I got a lot. Is that enough to get across the finish
Mhm.
line? Like, but
I am not participating in blitz skirmishes, but I'm happy for the people who like to participate in blitz skirmishes.
yeah, I think it's good. The promos are cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
But it's always hard during the holidays too. I feel like a lot of people can't go because they have holiday parties or whatever. So there probably won't be a ton of attendance. So go out to your local store, show up, please. People need you. But
I'm just a dirty Riftbound player right now. I'm going to be flying out to Houston in a couple of days here. So if you're listening to this and you happen to be in Houston, feel free to say hello if you see me. I will be there playing Riftbound. It's very weird because I am almost more excited to play side events than I am to even play the main event. Because like I just like playing the game as like a semi-casual player. It's like a very unique feeling that I don't get very often. Plus, it's just like the stuff's cool. Everything's worth $1 bajillion right now, so you just make infinite money just on like product alone. Um, and I'm just like, I don't think I'm very good at the game yet, and so it's fun to be in a spot where like I'm not good at the game. So it's like every game I sit down, I'm just like learning stuff, and I'm like, I'm just trying my best. And so it's a unique feeling. They don't get very often.
do you like Riftbound better or Vibes? Which was your favorite?
Riftbound is infinitely better. There's nothing redeemable about vibes. Come on now.
I
I'm
do get served a lot of the Pudgy Penguin like reels on Instagram, and it's the two like the boy and the girl Pudgy Penguin just like having their little daily problems or whatever. It's so funny. They're such good videos. That's the hook for me to get into vibes.
I am in I am invited to go play at their worlds. I think it's at the end of
Mhm.
January. I might not go to their worlds. So we will see. But
But it's Riftbound time.
yeah, it's also flesh and blood time.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
next.
we've got a good stretch. We got Seattle and Columbus coming up in January too.
Yep.
So some nice U.S. call-ins in next month or so.
Yeah, the schedule is sick. Like I was mapping it out earlier today, looking at next year, and it's basically like at least one event every month we can go to.
Yep. Yeah, I got to make all that money from Riftbound so then I can go invest it in Flesh and Blood. Wardo77 asks, Arachne Marinette had a good showing at the CC calling. Is it time for the best deck in the format since the Hunted to be considered S tier?
Call Dan, get him on the phone. Let him bask in the glory.
No.
I think we don't need to make a tier list yet until we get the ban list. But yeah, I think he's one of the best decks. So yeah, if that qualifies him as S tier in your head, then yeah, he's S tier.
Dan would love that answer. Samurai JWL says, what meta do you think you could go back in time and demolish with at an unknown time road deck or tech for the meta? What meta do you wish you could go back in time and experience for the first time again? So basically, what do you think you could go back and crush?
I wonder how long that beefy Briar deck existed for before people played it. You know what I mean? Like, was there formats before when people played?
Well, it would have
Charles
to be
won?
post Oldham, which was
right?
Baltimore, but before that national season. So I don't think very long.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe Cody will echo this, but playing the Icelander deck that Hamilton played at the first US Nats with the Wounded Bulls and Fighting Spirits and stuff, just like having the balls to actually register that deck for the tournament, I think would have been pretty nice.
I mean, that's my answer because I was legitimately testing the deck.
That's what I'm saying.
For
Yeah,
Nats,
I knew you'd agree with that.
if I'd had the balls to just like continue testing it solo, because at the time that's what I was, or if someone that I was testing with would have just been like, I think that deck's good, you should play it, I would have 100% brought that deck to nationals. But I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna save it for Worlds. Little did I know it was going to be spoiled at nationals and it was never going to be a secret at Worlds. But that would have been a deck like, if it doesn't get spoiled there, I was 100% going to work on that for Worlds. And I thought, I was like, oh, I can get a huge payoff with this then. And it's not quite there for me yet. But yeah, that's 100% the deck.
Yeah, I think the other one for me is we never got to play it in any like official big tournaments, but there was that actually ironically it was the last time we were in Columbus. There was like a Realm 10K, I think, where it was like the one format where you could play Bolton. It was like after the Bannerets had come out and something had just gotten hit. It was like Bravo, Dromai, and a bunch of random decks. Like the meta was not really solidified. And I thought, like, yeah, that was like the one. Oh, Azalea was also a deck, but Lexi had already LL'd. Yeah, I thought Bolton was like super sick for that like exact one tournament, and like building it for that tournament was a lot of fun. But I was not super confident, so I didn't like go balls to the wall in preparation. And like, yeah, I remember in that tournament, just two of my losses were to Peter and Caleb on Kano, when like I could have just made that free if I put in more of like the light spell void things, like banish a card from your soul, prevent two, like it would have been free, and I just didn't put them in my deck because I never tested the matchup. And as I'm playing the game, I'm like, I see, I could have just won this game for free, and I didn't need this other useless card on my sideboard. But yeah, I thought that was like a sick deck for the time, and I wish I could have like gone back and like really practiced more, and I think I could have done better with that. But yeah, for sure, the most obvious one for me is just playing Icelander at US Nats. Like it's like a windmill slam. The second part, do you guys have any thoughts on the meta you go back and experience for the first time again?
Connor to tell me what meta he could go back and.
Oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Which meta can I go back and crush? I mean, I wish I played the Sam Sutherland Dio deck before, like for that ProQuest season or whatever. I had a version of it, but wasn't as sick as Sam's version was. Instead, I just got fatigued by every Runaways person I played against in a ProQuest that season. So the system reset deck was that deck was sick at Worlds when it came out, and it existed the whole time or whatever. Nothing new came out.
Fun fact, by the way, only top 8 of that world. I mean, maybe I could have still done it otherwise, but I played against Sam Sutherland in Swiss. I don't know if I've ever told this, but I only beat him because on the last turn of the game, like he's basically doing like his last cards in deck on this turn. He either wins or loses, and he draws a system reset, and it's not a blue card, so he can't actually cast the max V, and then he just fatigues and loses. But if it was just like any blue card in the deck, then he would have won. Or like a red boost attack he could just throw as well.
What?
So
Well, didn't the Dio Armory deck come out like pretty late in that season before that Worlds? Wasn't that the
It
actual
was
stage?
out for the whole ProQuest season, but Worlds was like after the ProQuest season.
Yeah. What did you end up playing at that Worlds? Because we had that deck in the February.
I didn't go to Worlds.
Yeah,
that
he
year.
just
Oh,
didn't go
you
to
didn't
Japan.
go to that Worlds.
I didn't
That's
go
what-
to- was that-
Yeah. That was in
Was that
Japan.
Osaka?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Japan,
didn't,
yeah.
I didn't go to Worlds that year. But I played that system reset deck.
I know. You
definitely
played it
have
against us a bunch.
vids. Yeah, and I was like, yo, this is cracked. But then I just didn't play it in ProQuest or whatever.
I mean, that's what we were running, like Enigma into a bunch to make sure it was winnable, and then
Mhm.
we ran Zen into it a bunch that we ultimately stayed on. I'm also, if I could go back and play a different deck, I might have played your deck at Worlds. But
Viscerai deck.
that Viscerai deck was sick when no one knew about
Mhm.
it. I was still very happy with playing Zen because I felt favored into like everything, especially the other Viscerai players. But I did
Mhm.
think your Viscerai deck there was a good tech up from everyone else.
Yeah, I think I would have definitely played the either Baltimore or Viscerai at Worlds would probably be the two metas I like look back on most fondly of wanting to play again. Just because I also enjoyed the concept of the meta for um, limited in both those tournaments too. So like if we're talking about like both Rosetta and Outsiders, like tournament as a whole, I think I would like to play those again. I also feel like I kind of got cheesed at my Barcelona meta where I played Dash IE and I thought it was like a decent bring, and then round one like Reinar triple Arg Smash, just not a real deck, but okay, I got owned, and then like I don't know, it was just like a cursed event for me in general from that point forward, just kind of spiraling downhill, and a couple of Dash IEs topped with like almost exactly my same idea of a deck. So I was like, oh, okay, I kind of wish I could get like a run back on that tournament, not necessarily because it was enjoyable, but just like I feel like it was a bit of a cheesy way to go out at. That was a Worlds, right, in Barcelona, I think. Yeah, like cheesy way to go out at a Worlds. So yeah, I would do that one again as like a run back, but then definitely Baltimore and Osaka as ones of like me feeling like I was a leg up on others and wanting to experience that aspect of it again.
Mine go back and experience again are just every time I brought chain and I was one of 16 in the room. You have no idea how nice it is to go to a tournament that's like 500 plus people and there's only be like 16 chains in the room. Like it's just absolutely cracked. Like, so it'd be like the nationals that I topped, Indy that I topped. Those are the two events that I showed up for. There were no other chains in attendance. It was so fun. Just be the only one. I'm the only one. I get to play the broken deck.
Yeah, I'm sure that's nice.
That is the best feeling. I've had that feeling a couple times in my life where, like, I picked a deck. I'm like, this deck's broken. Round 2, I play against the mirror and I lose, and then it's like there's only a couple other copies of it in the room though, and then I like win the tournament, and I'm like, see, dude, the only deck I lost to was my deck. I was hot as the sun. We did it, or whatever. That's always the best.
I mean, that's why I wasn't national champion. I lost my own deck, literally.
True.
I lost to Michael Feng playing the like basically the only other chain in the room.
Michael
in
got
top
to be
4.
on that side of the
Yeah.
of the sicko field.
Good times. Okay, Mike at Blockout Party says, "Can you name the 4 generic cards with sigil in its name?" So Sigil of Solace is definitely obvious, the obvious one.
What's the name
There's
of the
a-
one from Uprising?
Yeah, the red one that has Doden. Sigil Protection.
Protection? I thought it doesn't have Go again, but it comes in like red, yellow, blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Sigil
The ward one, Sigil Protection for sure.
Yeah.
Sigil of
Sigil of
Cycles.
Cycles.
Sigil of
Shout out
Cycles.
Bad Brute Players.
I love that card. Hey, that card's
No,
sick.
Zen played Sigil of Cycles and Zen at
Oh
one
yeah,
point.
Zen.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
In the dark times.
Yeah.
And then Sigil of Findal, gain 1.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Is that it? There's
Yeah.
only 4? I feel like there should be more.
Do you give us the answers?
Yep. Protection,
Nice.
Cycles, Findel, Solace.
Let's go.
I'm a Sigil of Cycles truther. I think that card's sick.
Yeah, that seems like a card you would enjoy. It's just a card you get to literally click the button and play it. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You just get to
Yep.
play it.
And then next turn you go, my turn was so sick, dude, because I had the Sigil of Cycles.
Yeah.
And you pop off.
It's funny. Foxman asks, would you rather receive $50 million, but everyone can hear your thoughts whenever they look at you, or 2 free cheeseburgers from wherever you want, free of charge?
50 mil. Give me 50 mil.
Wait, you get 2 free cheeseburgers one time?
No, this is probably whenever and wherever, I'm going to guess.
Okay.
I will take the 50 million. You can hear whatever I think. I'll have 50
Yeah.
million. I don't care what you think about what I think.
I'll become like a meditation master and just have no thoughts in
I
my
have
head.
no thoughts.
With $50 million in the bank. And
It's also you can't not pick that one because one, it's a hypothetical, so it's not real. So if you ever actually said, you know what, I don't want people to hear what I'm thinking, then you're just like admitting that you're a bad person. So there's like the meta answer. There's the answer to the question, and then there's the meta answer to the question, and you only ever get to answer. You take the 50 million.
Okay. I appreciate you going through this narrative. So yes, I would definitely, and I didn't have any qualms about it, choose the $50 million.
Correct. That is the only correct
that was
answer
always
to this
what I was going
question.
to say,
Yes.
regardless of your preamble.
Yep.
I was always going to say that.
Yes.
I'm glad we sorted that out.
Yeah. Fighting Walloon says, James White needs you to create a story idea for LSS's first FAB movie venture. Which hero do you want to be the protagonist of your movie? What is the antagonist? What is the central conflict? Bonus, who do you hope to cast?
Oh my, dude. This is
so
quite
much.
extensive.
crazy. All right. I think I have an answer. All right.
Okay, good.
I want Dash.io to be my main character.
Of course you do.
Her merging with Data Doll or whatever the whole Bright Light story is. And then Max is a cool character that wants to like blow up the whole system. And then Tetlo is like the big bad villain or whatever.
So you want it to be like Arcane?
Or like Bright Lights or whatever.
Yeah. I'm saying like Arcane, like the TV show, the League of Legends one.
Oh,
where
is
it's
that
kinda
the
like
whole
mechanologist like built over in Zon, you know, like they're fighting against like the big bad machine guy. Have you not seen it?
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen it. No.
Okay. What you're describing is very close to the plot of Arcane, which is wildly successful. So I think you've done a good job.
They wrote it down at least.
It
but,
might.
Yeah. Do you mean
It might sell people on a weird vision of what Flesh and Blood is, because they'll be like, this is all mech stuff. And then you go in and you're like, that is a very small portion of what Flesh and Blood is.
Yeah.
There's like some people with guns, but everyone else has swords or whatever for whatever reason.
And clubs.
Yeah.
And golf clubs.
Give me like Robert Downey Jr. as Tekla Vesson. Give me
you just
actually
Tony Stark again.
Yeah, what's his name? Matt Smith, the guy that's in House of Dragon. He can be Max. He's in some movie with Austin Butler and he has some crazy mohawk. So I want that same vibe for Max. And then I don't know, give me Scarlett Johansson for Dio or whatever.
I think it would be sick to make a movie based on the whole like killing the Emperor storyline.
Yeah.
But Kano is like the secret advisor to the Emperor, and like part of the plot is that a literal volcano is going to explode if the Emperor dies. Like him and Kano are like keeping the volcano underway. So like the whole movie portrays them as the villain, but in the end they're actually the good guys, like preventing the volcano from exploding and erupting and destroying the whole world of Wraith. I don't know who the protagonists are. Yeah, the Arachnes. Yeah, the Arachnes can be the protagonists. Like you see their journey from like who they were beforehand, what's underneath the mask, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
would be cool.
I'll take the other obvious one, which is just Monarch.
Mm-hmm.
But frame the whole movie as in like Prism and them are the good guys, and then at the end you reveal that they're actually the bad guys the whole time.
Chain was always the good guy, man.
As is the truth. They just want their god to come take over everything. Mm-hmm. Soul is actually evil. So that would be a good twist. You get to put Prism in it because that is the poster girl, and then it has Chain in it, which makes me happy.
Viserai as a villain is pretty sick because he's like kind of like Darth Vader vibes, right? Also, he's like or Frankenstein or whatever, where
Yeah,
he's
I
like
mean,
an
he's got a
animated puppet
similar.
together.
Yeah, for sure.
The bottom line is they should make a show because they really need to
Mhm.
grow the casual side of the game, and the best way to get people to want to interact with the IP is probably to create a TV show.
I agree. Yeah,
If they
I
want
mean, all these are ideas that are like each one of these could even just be a season. Um, yeah, it doesn't have to be like a long drawn out production. It can even just be like an hour or two each, just like a short movie kind of thing. Would be cool.
But yeah, they need to. I do think it is important at some point for the FAB ecosystem to try and evolve outside of of just the FAB trading card game. We have seen that this has been what is causing the most growth in the TCG marketplace. Has been stuff like Riftbound and One Piece and etc. Having actual real tie-ins that draw people in, being able to create a tie-in off your own IP that you own and you created that isn't actually a sellout is pretty nice, I think, to be able to do. I think Riftbound's a good example of that. And then that would be a way to actually try and compete, I think, moving forward and draw in more of a casual audience, not just casual as in in the TCG space, but just people who want to interact with the IP.
Yeah.
King of Mice says, how do you generally decide on what blues to run in a deck when there is no obvious best choice? I.e., what kind of abilities are you generally more inclined to include in your blue base? They have 3 in the corner.
Yeah. Number one thing is they have 3 in the bottom right. Number 2 is how useful are they to me if my opponent lets me keep a full hand of cards? Are they something that's like castable, discardable, filterable in some way? Um, how good are they at the end of the game if that's like the strategy of my deck? Things like the big 8 power Guardian Blues are typically good at the end of the game. Um, do my blues have a function in a specific metagame? This would be, for example, like really niche tech cards. Again, you want them to block 3, but niche tech cards like Ripple Away, This Round's on Me, Warmongers type cards, where I'm almost never going to be casting them, but when I do, they're extremely high impact in certain matchups. Another thing too is the um, if I can get away with having like a blue base in my deck that is just my blue base. I know a lot of people on the Runaways at least try to do this, where they basically never have sideboard blues. Like sometimes we do for sure, but maybe this is beyond just the Runaways, but just people in general in Flesh and Blood of like just never really wanting to have sideboard blues, but instead have like your blue base just be blues that are serviceable in every matchup and switch out the more high impact cards. Um, so yeah, those are kind of the things I'm thinking about in my blue base.
Yeah, I think one thing I like about blues is I like to do like different splits of them. I think we leave some equity on the table by not having more splits that are like 2-2-2 of different blues that have more specific roles or things like that. Um, one good way to evaluate your own deck lists is through like the Fabrary, like where it has like the played, blocked, pitch to like percentage breakdown in your stats, whatever. Once you get some data on the game, look at those and see which blues you're playing the least, because those are like the least impactful ones that when they are in your hand, you're playing the least amount. And those are the ones that you can kind of try to cut first if you're trying to fit in like your warmongers or more impactful specific blues. But I think there's a lot of utility you can get by having one or two ofs or um, different splits of blues in your build.
Makes sense. I mean,
Okay.
I agree with all that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the other things for blues that you can look at, this doesn't apply as much anymore, but it used to be you would have sideboard blues for when ice is around. So if you are playing against ice, that is something you want to think about. But you want them to be more of just blues that also impact the ice game. When you do stuff like have secondary blues, it's really nice when they also come in for certain matchups. Like Warmongers is like a very obvious one for this. So if you end up needing like, I need extra blues for ice, then also make it like the Warmongers, because then it makes sense to switch in and out of your deck against those type of good matchups. And then no deck does this anymore, but I used to have cards I pulled into my deck that were blue when I would play more than the base amount of cards in my deck, but that was
Yeah.
because I was playing chained. So when I go
No,
up to
no,
like
that's been the
63
case.
or 64 cards,
Yeah,
I'd have blues just
that's
for that
definitely been the
situation.
case. When like Guardian Fatigue piles are a thing of
Yeah.
like if your deck's best way of combating that is just adding more cards, you want to make sure you add blues in an equal ratio to make your deck not brick when you're adding more cards.
Mhm.
I think one more thing too is if your deck doesn't already have lots of ways of making very impactful like turn zeros going first. Some cards that are just like super high roll if you're able to play it on turn zero. Like you're basically never casting it outside of turn zero, but if you are able to play it on turn zero, it's very impactful and it will improve your win rate when your deck doesn't normally want to go first, but now you have to. It's like Truce is an example of this, of just a card that's like very high impact if you're able to play it on turn zero, but um, still has that same basic principle of being a 3 block.
Agreed.
One more thing too, I was going to say about Connor's idea of one ofs and two ofs is that I think one ofs and two ofs in blues make a lot of sense because those are the cards you're going to be pitching most of the time, assuming you're putting blues in your deck because you want to pitch them. So you can include a one or two of in your deck and know that you're going to be able to access that effect at some point in the game because you're just saying, okay, when I draw this one blue, like I'm going to pitch it. Like say I played like one reckless swing, for example, in a super long matchup. I'm just going to know that when I play one reckless swing, I'm gonna um, either cast it on that turn cycle or I'm gonna pitch it. So I'm like nearly guaranteed to be able to resolve it throughout the course of the game, even though I only have just the one.
Perfect. Anything else?
All good, man.
Sweet. Well, I think that's everything for this week. Again, if you're going to be in Houston, come say hi. I will be having some fun there with the Riftbound. Look forward to the Metafy guide for Dio coming out. Other than that, thanks for sticking around for an hour and 30 minutes. So see you guys.